morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, what has the media, what have the Democrats, what have all of these liberals been saying for how many years now? Especially after Thursday night's speech, his historic address from the White House, that we have the safest, most secure elections ever. And according to them, non-citizens, they never vote in any elections. They say it over and over and over again. No, non-citizens, illegals voting? No, impossible. Impossible. It's a lie. It's a lie by Trump. Well, guess what? Now the entire architecture of the elaborate lies established by Democrats to cover up what we all know, and the evidence has been irrefutable for years if you're just willing to look at it, which is that we have rampant voter fraud, we have rampant election corruption, and our elections and our election systems are not safe and not secure. Yesterday, at an absolutely mortifying press conference, the Democratic governor of New Jersey, let me repeat that, the Democratic governor of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, had to now admit that last week she was told by people within her administration that there was a quote-unquote, this is the term now they're trying to use, a quote-unquote software error that had taken place with their voting machines, and that over 6,600 non-citizens were registered to vote. And not only had they been registered to vote illegally, but that she claims 400 had illegally cast a ballot. And what she said, this is how they phrased it, this is how they couched it yesterday, that from beginning in June of 2023, going all the way to June of 2024, and by the way, there were elections in New Jersey at that time. In fact, very closely contested elections in New Jersey. She said that the vendor, which is a French firm that had been registering people to vote and allowing them to get registered through their motor vehicle system, made a mistake, or the software made a mistake. So, as you know, New Jersey has a motor voter registration system, as does Massachusetts, as do 23 other states, including the District of Columbia. So, when you get a driver's license, or you are given some kind of an identification card, you are automatically registered to vote. It is dependent upon the person that's getting the license or the ID card to opt out, to say, no, I am not a citizen, so I'm not eligible to vote, so please don't register me. According to Mikey Sherrill, when people in New Jersey, non-citizens, illegals, were given a driver's license or an ID card, they were then asked, are you an American citizen? i.e., can you vote? Are you legally allowed to vote? She claims that over 6,600 said no, and they tapped the button no. But that the glitch, the quote error, unquote, in the software went from no to yes. And so, by this mistake, according to her, the 6,600 non-citizens, many of them, as I said, migrants and illegals, were suddenly put on the voting rolls. They were registered to vote. they were counted as legal U.S. citizens entitled to be registered to vote. And according to Mikey Sherrill, she said, we did a very quick preliminary analysis, but it looks like, hundreds and hundreds of them actually did end up voting. Now, she claims, in the midst of this stunning revelation, she claims that it wasn't systemic, that it was limited to only 6,600, that they are going to get rid of this vendor from France. They're going to replace it with another vendor next year. And she assures everybody that as far as she knows, it did not change the outcome of any election. That's what she says. Even though New Jersey has had, listen to this, 13 elections in the last couple of years in which the winner was decided by 10 or less votes. Okay, basically by a handful of votes, literally a handful of votes. But she says, no, it had no impact whatsoever. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to open it up to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, 617-266-6868. Number one, and the White House immediately responded, saying, again, Trump has been vindicated. Democrats said, this doesn't happen, it never happens. Now that we know, it does happen. It proves Donald Trump's point again, that our election systems are not safe, they're not reliable, illegals are being registered to vote, and they are voting in elections. And that's why we need to pass the Save America Act. And by the way, we're starting to run out of time. It's really now crunch time. There's only about maybe a week to 10 days left. So it's basically now or never. But the point is, what happened in New Jersey shows now without a shadow of a doubt that we need the Save America Act. Because, as now local media all across New Jersey is reporting, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Mikey Sherrill and her hacks, all they did was reveal the bare minimum. The bare minimum. They had done a very quick scan, a cursory look at how many people were illegally registered to vote, how many non-citizens, and how many of them actually cast a ballot. So when they say 6,600, I'm telling you, multiply that by at least 10. Easy. In fact, in Trump's speech that he delivered on Thursday, he said that just on a cursory look, the administration found through a national database, a voter database, that 250,000, 250,000 non-citizens and illegal aliens were registered to vote in Nevada, in Pennsylvania, in California, and in New Jersey. 4 states alone. And that they found 35,000 non-citizens who were put on the voting rolls in New Jersey. Again, just on a cursory level look. So the White House is saying 35,000. Mikey Sherrill says she's admitting 6,600. So you may say, Jeff, why would they admit to anything at all? Because a story was going to come out that Trump was right in the New Jersey media. That there were whistleblowers within the administration of Mikey Sherrill. And they said, no, you're being lied to. We know that thousands and thousands of illegals and non-citizens were falsely, illegally put on the voting rolls. And there's evidence, we know for sure, hundreds, if not thousands of them voted. Our elections are tainted. Our elections are dirty. And so Mikey Sherrill had to get out in front of this bombshell story and try to minimize it and pretend now like it's all being taken care of. Don't ask any more questions as we sweep it all under the rug. Now, let me make a couple of other points, and then I want to go to your phone calls. Even if it didn't sway or change the outcome of any elections, and I don't believe it did or didn't, I'm telling you it did have an impact. There's no question in my mind it had an impact. Especially in the last presidential election where Kamala Harris barely defeated Trump in New Jersey. The fact that you allowed 6,600 non-citizens to be registered and hundreds more to vote, you are canceling the vote of legal U.S. citizens. Legal U.S. citizens, that means their votes have been null and void. Their votes were annulled. That's unacceptable. That's a blatantly unacceptable. Their heads need to roll. And notice, whenever the Democrats are finally caught red-handed cheating, notice, it's never an individual that's to blame. It's never, a person, a human operator. No. It's always the system. A glitch in the software. A software error. A computer error. Okay, absolutely, as I said, mortifying. Shocking revelation yesterday. We knew it was happening. We knew it was systemic. We knew it was rampant. But that the Democrats would actually come out, and I guess they were forced, their hand was forced, but admit that there were massive errors in the motor vehicle system in New Jersey, in which 6,600 that they've admitted were illegally registered to vote, and they claim hundreds actually voted. Now, let me just make an obvious point. You're an illegal alien. You're not even supposed to be in this country. You're given a driver's license or some ID card. You know you're not a citizen, and yet you vote anyway. So this idea that illegals don't vote is a lie. Okay, it's now irrefutable. Okay, Governor Mikey Sherrill and the New Jersey Democrats had to concede that yesterday. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two, how the hell and who in particular designs a system where you get a driver's license, for example, like in New Jersey, and then you're asked, and by the way, you have to show no proof. I just find it incredible. It's completely based on the honor system. In other words, you just got to take the person's word for it. And the question is, are you an American citizen? If the answer is no, they don't register you to vote. If you say yes, they register you to vote. Now, they claim that 6,600 pressed no, but it was received as a yes in the system, and so they were automatically put on the registration voting rolls. So they're all registered to vote, even though they shouldn't be, i.e., so Trump was right in his speech on Thursday. And, as I said, many voted. Now, how do you get a system where a no equals a yes? Because I'll tell you what they also said. Everybody who pressed yes wasn't put into a no. So it was only no to yes. And this was done when you had Republicans. Just remember now, this is 2023, 2024. If you can go back a couple of years, what was the story? New Jersey is trending purple. New Jersey may actually even go red. Remember? They were going on about how Republican candidates were doing surprisingly well. And how suddenly now New Jersey was becoming a really competitive two-party system. And now, all of a sudden, what a coincidence. Shazam! Now suddenly, no, I'm not an American citizen. Bang, you become you become registered to vote, and they put you on the voting rolls. And who's going to be held accountable for that? Who's going to go to jail for that? Well, Jeff, it was the system. Well, somebody designed the system, and somebody implemented the system, and somebody was supposed to oversee the system. No, it's a cover-up. It's an obvious cover-up. Now, to me, there are two massive questions, and I promised that I want to go to the phones, 617-266-6868, because there's so much to unpack and digest. Number one, is it only 6,600 that went from no to yes and were illegally registered to vote? And is it only 400 that cast their ballots? Because I don't believe them. I don't believe them. Why should the people who have been caught cheating and engaging in voter fraud and election corruption, we're just supposed to trust you? Take your word for it? Just because you say there's only 6,600, we're supposed to say, okay, well, that's it. Okay, well, okay, Mikey. Okay, Governor Sherrill. Okay, Mikey. If you say it's only 6,600, by the way, only 6,600 votes is a lot. Okay? That's a lot. I mean, registered voters, forgive me. That's a lot. I don't care. That's a lot. One illegal voting is one too many because you're annulling. You're negating that of a legal U.S. citizen. That's a crime. It's the worst thing you can do in a constitutional republic. It strikes at the very essence of citizenship and at the very essence of free, fair elections. So what you really need is a proper, thorough, independent investigation led by the Justice Department. They don't want that. They don't want the feds involved because I'm telling you it's not going to be 6,000. It's going to be at least 10 times that. Okay, a really good message I got from Brian on Messenger. Jeff. You know, what did Democrats say? Illegals aren't on welfare. It's against the law. Oh, wait. Hold on. No. Illegals can't be registered to vote. No illegal has voted. Oh, wait. Racism. It's the liberal playbook. Bingo. Bingo. He nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. You know, it's like everybody knows there's story after. I mean, how many illegals now are on welfare? So the Dems denied it for decades. And now it's like, well, okay. You know, now it's, well, no, they're not registered. That's a lie. You know, they don't vote. My God, there's not a scintilla of evidence. We have the most secure elections in the history of the world. Oh, geez. You racist, you. Let me make one last point. And this is the heart of the matter. Everyone is focusing, and rightly, I get it, how you push no and it puts you onto a yes. It's registered as yes. And then you're automatically, even though you're an illegal, a non-citizen, and you're automatically registered to vote, and how many of them cast ballots. Okay? It's beyond outrageous. It's a crime. It's sickening. But to me, I'm looking at this and no one ever asks for proof of citizenship. So I'm an illegal. Here, let's take the illegal part out. Okay? I'm a green card holder. I'm here on a work visa. I'm here on a student visa. So, I go into the Motor Vehicle Commission, as it's called in New Jersey, MVC. Okay, they're their version of the DMV or the RMV. And I want my license. Okay, here's your license. And there you go, sir. You know, you got your license, even though you're not even a citizen of this country. Okay. Now, you're automatically registered to vote unless you say no. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to say yes. Click. You're just going to take my word for it? Because what happens in New Jersey and in Massachusetts and in California and in many other places is they just accept your word. You don't have to show a passport. You don't have to show a birth certificate. You don't have to show anything. Now, you hate Donald Trump. Just objectively, you're an illegal alien. So, the elections are coming up. What's your incentive? Do you want to vote for the guy that's going to deport you and your entire family back to wherever you're from? Or are you going to vote for the party that is saying we will give you amnesty, amnestio, put you on a path to citizenship, and we're going to load you up with every welfare, social assistance benefit under the sun? And all I got to do is, instead of say no, say yes. And nobody will find me. Nobody will come after me. There will be no consequences whatsoever. And we're stupid enough to, I don't mean this audience, I'm talking about, the argument liberals make. And we're stupid enough to believe that people actually are honest. By the way, we're trusting these very same people to be honest, who broke into our country, who broke our laws, who are scamming the system, who are working illegally under the table, who are getting illegal welfare benefits. But all of a sudden now, when it's just on a computer screen, yes, no, are you a citizen? And if you say yes, you're automatically registered. And from that point, my friend, you're going to vote. And suddenly at that moment, they're going to say, oh no, I have to be honest. Now you know why there are tens and tens of millions of non-citizens, illegal aliens, who have been registered and have been voting. And now you know why Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey and every other blue state governor and every other blue city mayor and every single national Democrat, every single one, have declared a political jihad against the Save America Act. Because as Chuck Schumer admitted, if this thing passes, we lose 16 million voters. That's the problem with the system. It's just too damn easy to cheat. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Susie in Georgia. You're going to kick us off, Susie, the Peach State. Thanks for holding, Susie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning,
Susie.
fellow patriots in Kuhner country. Let me begin with, we the people demand the Senate pass the Save America Act immediately and instantly codify, ratify, whatever you want to call it, into constitutional law. No more negotiations, no more excuses, and no more compromises, no more delays. We are entitled to a sovereign nation. We are entitled to secure elections. We are entitled, we the people are entitled to have proof of citizenship before any decisions are made for we the people. No more non-citizens voting, and to listen to them to say, oh, it's only 6,600, they're lying. They're lying. They're lying. They've been lying. There's no accountability. So they continue to lie. Common sense isn't a common commodity. But let me tell you, let me assure you, they are lying.
Susie, no question. No question. In fact, what I find incredible is, and again, where are the Republicans? I mean, this should be, Mike Johnson should be screaming this in the halls of Congress. John Thune should be banging the lectern and holding a press conference saying, we've got the smoking gun. We need a complete investigation. We need the Department of Justice to investigate. This is unacceptable. So instead, they're just taking her word. The first question I would ask her is, well, how'd you come up with 6,600? How do we know it's not more? Because, Susie, I'll tell you this, and this is not an original point. Many people are making it. Because, you see, in other words, it's time for an audit. Okay? It's time for an audit of the New Jersey voting system. But they don't want an audit. But notice, when the government audits you or audits me, if they find any inconsistency, anything whatsoever about our income, or what you make, or what I make, or whatever, do they say, well, we'll take your word for it. Oh, okay. Oh, it's just $300 you guys didn't declare? Okay, no, that was a bit of an accounting error. Sure, we take your word for it. They dig, and they dig, and they dig, and they don't stop digging. So why aren't we doing the same in New Jersey? How come all of a sudden she gives out a figure and everybody just suddenly admits, okay, just accepts it? No, I don't accept it because I know it's the tip of the iceberg. Where did she come up with that figure? How does she know? The question is, how do you know there's not more? Did you do a thorough investigation? I don't believe you. Who did the investigation? Which group? And in fact, later in the press conference, she even admitted that they're getting a law firm to, quote, look deeper into this. So in other words, no, we just scratched she even said it, we just scratched the surface. So if you just scratch the surface, how the hell then are you telling me there's only 6,600 votes? So this stinks to high heaven. You're completely right. And look, Susie, the question I have for you, and this is what's always concerned me. We got them now on how they register people from a no to a yes. We got them. We got them that illegals are voting. There's no question. We got them that non-citizens are being registered. We got them. But this has been Trump's point the whole time, and he's right. When I go vote, and I vote in person, okay, I prefer paper ballots, but they won't give me that option. So I take my voting card. I voted for Trump, as an example. Normally I vote Republican all the way down the line. And then I stick it into the machine. And the machine swallows up. It swallows up my ballot. And it says, okay, your vote's been, that's what the guy says behind. The election official says, okay, your vote's been counted. I'm like, how do I know? Do I get a receipt? Do I get anything? A number? Do I get anything? Does it state who I voted for? Because if there's a software glitch in how they're registering people is happening, how come there can't be a software glitch when the voting machines count our votes? Larry in Arkansas. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Jeff. I have a question for you, sir.
Go ahead.
Now,
shoot away, Larry.
I've got the Gulf War syndrome, so my memory isn't that good. Do you recall an article or a headline that said, computer glitch in voting system, thousands vote for Republicans?
I've never seen that in my life, Larry.
Isn't that odd? It's so odd that every time one of these happen, it's always to the Democrats' benefit.
100%. You're right.
Like,
every time. Not even 99% in their favor. It's always 100% in their favor. Isn't that incredible, Larry?
Only it's taken over for the blue. It's crazy.
Larry, what are the odds, huh?
I think if I heard you correctly, the only reason we know about this is because there's a couple of whistleblowers who threatened to come out.
Right. That's right.
They knew about this. And no, I think the numbers are fudged because if you look at the numbers, the numbers they're going to admit to are bad, but not enough to sway any election. That's why you need an audit.
Oh, I agree. Larry, I completely agree. They had to give out something, approximating close, not even close, but somewhere in the league, in the ballpark of being the truth. But you're right. Once you go 30, 40, 50, 60,000, it's minimum that, if not a lot more, then you've got a massive scandal. You can't bury that scandal. You nailed it. That's going to trigger an audit. There's no question. So you say 6,600 and only 400 voted. And I'm like, yeah, show us the evidence that it was only 400 because I don't even believe that. I don't believe it. You're telling me that 6,600 people were registered to vote, put on the voting rolls, got mail-in ballots, and only 400 voted? Bull, you know what? I can't say it. Bravo, Sierra. Okay? Bullshit ski. Okay, let's put it that way. Let me protect myself from a fine. I'm telling you, it's so obvious. So, Larry, look, I want to ask you this as well. She delivers this press conference. The Democratic media is shell-shocked. They're like, she wasn't supposed to reveal this. Obviously, she had whistleblowers, so she felt she had no choice. Her back was against the wall. They're having a very hard time spinning this because it completely vindicates Trump. There's now no question. Yet at the end of her speech, she then blames the whole thing on Trump. Like, you want to talk about Trump derangement syndrome. She goes on and says, the president should not try to use this to pass the SAVE Act. And even people in the room are looking at each other like, well, that's exactly why we should have the SAVE Act. She says, no, the only one who's undermined confidence in our elections is him. He was the one who ordered January 6th. Again with January 6th. He's the one that ordered an attack on the Capitol. He's the one that wouldn't respect or recognize Joe Biden's free and fair election victory. So, it's clearly a Democrat scandal. She even, in fact, tries to blame the previous administration in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, that Democrat hack. She says, this all occurred under his watch, and he didn't care. She openly says that. She says he didn't care. He didn't want to hold anybody accountable. He knew all this was going on, and he didn't lift a finger. So this is under your watch and your predecessor's watch, who's a Democrat, and all this did was to benefit Democrats, but somehow Trump is to blame. Larry, is the public going to buy this? That no matter what, even when you have blatant fraud and election corruption, voter misconduct, clear cheating, clear malfeasance, caught red-handed, admitted even, that somehow Trump is at fault. Is this going to fly, Larry?
How you couched it is how people need to get pounded into their head. For every illegal that votes, that scratches one legal vote. That's what I don't think it resonates with the American people yet, that every vote that is cast illegally is taken away from your voice.
I'm with you. No, Larry, I agree. I completely agree. And, Larry, the other thing is the Democrats, they send me emails. It's the same line, same talking point. Well, it didn't sway the outcome of the election. So they went from there is no fraud and we have the most secure elections in the world, that there's not even one illegal voting. No, nothing. To, okay, there is fraud, and illegals are getting registered, and they are voting. Now, okay, they have to concede. But it didn't sway the election. Well, how do you know? Because we haven't done a proper audit or investigation. New Jersey is refusing to hand over their voter rolls to the feds. Massachusetts won't hand over their voting rolls. California won't hand over their voting rolls. Oregon, Washington State, Illinois, New York State, they refuse to hand over their voting rolls because there's a central database where they can easily just cross-reference and you can pick out non-citizens on it like easily. But they don't. So to me, the fact that you won't hand over your voting rolls means it's to me an admission of guilt. No, you can't tell me it didn't sway any election because you're not willing to have a proper investigation and an audit of how many there actually are who are illegally registered and have illegally cast a ballot. Larry, final word to you. Am I wrong or am I right, Larry?
And my question is, where's the Woodward and Bernstein of our time? Wouldn't this be Pulitzer Prize winning journalism to bust this wide open?
Well, you know, Larry, that goes back to the conversation we were having yesterday, which is that the traditional media is dead. The traditional media, they're paid extremely well to lie and advocate for the Democratic Party. They're already, look, what the traditional media did yesterday in the wake of this bombshell story was try to cover it up, explain it away, and attack Donald Trump. That's all the Washington Post did. That's all the New York Times did. That's all the Boston Globe did. CNN, MS Now, I think many of the major networks didn't even carry this news. So I mean, they won't even report on it. And if they do report on it, they're running cover for the Democrats. Right away, it's like, well, it didn't sway the elections. Like, in other words, it's much ado about nothing. But flip it as to your beginning of your call. If this resulted in 6,600 extra people registering for the Republicans and illegal ballots were cast on behalf of the Republicans, do you think that the traditional corporate liberal fake news media would be saying what they were saying last night? Oh, it didn't sway the election. Oh, it was just, come on. It didn't make a difference in the end. They would go on a holy crusade. It would be wall-to-wall coverage. Oh, my God. Everywhere. Democracy in crisis. I mean, it'd be the end of the world, Larry. It's the independent media. That's where the Woodwards and Bernsteins are now. This show, podcasters, there's some excellent, excellent news sites out there where they don't have a big budget. They're on a shoestring budget, but they have a couple, one or two reporters. I keep mentioning his name because he's just so freaking good. Paul Sperry, Real Clear Politics. The guy's a one-man machine. And he works those phones. He works those sources. He gets FOIA requests done. He gets the documents. So there are people that are doing excellent, old school reporting, but that's no longer in the traditional media. Their job is to act as the phalanx, the guard, the palace guard to the Democratic Party. The days of Woodward and Bernstein are dead. We're now the ones, the young Turks, and we've got to take the fight to them. Larry, as always, thank you for that call. Excellent call. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. We're hitting on a bunch of cylinders here, and everybody's correct in what they're saying on this voting, for sure. We knew that, Jesus, when Trump lost the first loss. But anyway, that's what they're doing. They're hitting us with so many fronts, from bathrooms to illegal aliens. The bottom line is the illegal aliens are illegally here, and they're going into sanctuary cities, being protected by the governors, mayors that need their votes to stay in power. And, New York has that mayor. I don't even want to say his name for his recognition. He is openly going after one of our closest allies, trying to arrest him. And while we're at war with Iran, and our men and women are getting killed over there by the assistance of China, which they're all getting paid for, follow the money trail on all this voting and everything, and start locking these people up. We're at war. The mayor of New York is actually saying he supports terrorism and the Gaza Strip and all this. These people are protected in sanctuary cities, and I'm not going to say they're sanctuary cities. I'm sorry. What they are is they are little Gaza strips that they're hiding behind in our own country, using our laws to protect them. We're at war, and there's got to be some type of war act that supersedes their political powers under these times where they're trying to overthrow our government with this type of I don't know if you call it infighting or behind-the-scenes takeover of America, treasonous acts. They have to be dealt with. They're actually getting away by a vote to take over our country. This is the United States. We don't bend to terrorism or their ways or their Sharia law or any of it. This is America. I want to be protected by our government, and I want our government to go and do something about this. And Congress, you hear us talking, and I'm one of many. 85 million votes want this new voting to go through, and they're stuffing it down our throats saying no. So I've been since I've been 18, I'm 66 years old. I've had my license to carry firearms, and I've never, ever had to use them, thank God. But that's to protect me and all the other people that have the rights to do so, protect me and my personal belongings and everything. The government protects our citizenship and our rights, and we're being overthrown. Something has to be done.
You nailed it, Angelo. Look, you nailed it. When you have corrupt elections, when you have non-citizens voting, and we know why they're voting. They're voting not just to get handouts, and this is our money. So they're stealing our money. Whenever an illegal alien gets any kind of a welfare benefit, or any kind of a migrant gets a welfare benefit, that's theft. They're stealing our money. That is money that is supposed to go to American citizens. Okay, we're not running a charity case. We're running a country. And so, but it's not just that. They're voting to overthrow. They're voting to vote for a communist Marxist party. Let's be very clear. Increasingly now an Islamo-socialist or an Islamo-communist party, because you mentioned Mamdani. And they want to overthrow the Constitution and the entire American way of life with the Great Replacement. They've openly said it now. There's no discussion. There's no debate. They've admitted it. So they're out in the open. And look, let me go one step further. I don't believe Mamdani now won fair and square. I said I was very skeptical at the time. I said that I don't see him in a traditional democratic city like New York with over, 1 million or 2 million Jews? And this raging anti-Semite, who, by the way, publicly is a supporter of Hamas, which is a terrorist group, a supporter of Hezbollah, another Islamic terrorist group, and has openly now come out and sided with Iran, the largest Islamist state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And you're going to tell me that he won in New York? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Now, did Biden flood New York with a lot of third world migrants? Yes, millions. Are many of them Muslims? You can see it on the streets and pictures. I mean, it's parts of it now resemble Paris. They're praying on the streets. They're blocking traffic. There's so many Muslims now in parts of New York. And that was Mamdani's shock army. But they're not citizens. But now it's becoming obvious to me. They all get driver's licenses. They have, motor voter registration, as it's called. So they give him an ID. They give him a driver's license. Are you a citizen? Yes or no? If you hit no, they make you a yes. or you just say yes. And who's going to check? And that's how you get all these votes. So honestly, I don't believe he won fair and square. I believe he's an illegitimate mayor. Now, furthermore, I don't want to get sidetracked because what you're saying is true, but I want to stay on stolen elections. But who is this punk? This Islamo-communist, good-for-nothing punk from Uganda. You're going to try to arrest Israel's Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu? You don't have the authority. This guy's running around acting like he's president of the United States. This guy is already acting, I'm not kidding, like he's the leader of some caliphate. That somehow New York City has fallen to Sharia law. And he's the Grand Imam. And if you're a Jew or a Christian or a non-Muslim, and by the way, he hates Italians. It's not, believe me, if you think it's just Jews, he hates whites, but man, does he hate Italians. Okay, so that's another one of his bigotries, but let that go. And you can just, willy-nilly arrest anybody you feel you want to? Because you're the stupid mayor? And this is not even about Israel. I can't stand Xi Jinping. If Xi Jinping is walking on the streets of New York, this clown does not have the right to arrest the president of China. A, it'll lead to a nuclear war, but B, you don't have the authority. Pick your country. I don't care. The Prime Minister of Poland. The Prime Minister of Ireland. Pick your country. I don't care. But Putin is walking in down Manhattan to give a speech at the UN. You don't have the right to arrest the president of Russia. What are you, crazy? So the sheer fact, and by the way, he would never do it to any other leader except the Jew, except the leader of Israel. So this is the clown that they now have as their mayor. Now, do I think he was honestly elected? No way. No way. And increasingly now, look, let's be honest. If Ilhan Omar didn't have all those Somali illegals voting for her, you think she'd be a member of Congress? So it's obvious. I said it on X, and I'm going to state it again. The reason why you can't get a majority of senators to vote for the Save America Act is because so many of the senators and members of Congress, in the House, benefit from voter fraud. They benefit from election corruption. So what are they going to do? Vote for now clean, free, fair, honest elections? Which means the end of their power? Of course not. Their self-interest is kill this thing because they rely on voter fraud. Without voter fraud, they can't win. Angelo, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. By the way, I'm telling you, I believe that applies to Massachusetts as well. There's so much voter corruption in this state. It's unbelievable. No, if we had honest, free, fair elections, you'd see a very competitive two-party system in Massachusetts. But that's why the Democrats want to cover it all up. They want to keep the gravy train going. 617-266-6868. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. What's
Mark.
up, buddy?
Buddy, how are you?
I am well, man. I'm going to say something quick, and then, Jeff, I am going to blow your mind, man. I hope you're ready for this.
All right, go ahead. Give it to me.
Okay. So you said it. So this is my quick point first. You said it. What's to stop them from just saying yes? Of course. Then they're registered as citizens, and no one's going to look at that. They're not going to cross-reference the names. They're going to say, he's a citizen. We don't need to look at him. Massachusetts, auto-enrolls. everyone that gets a license, including illegals, and their argument is, well, there's a box for them to check that says, don't auto-enroll me. Oh, yeah, because they're going to just check that box. So, tens of thousands of illegals are registered in the state of Massachusetts. Of course they are. They just didn't bother to check the box.
You're 1,000% correct. Mark, I don't want to rush you. We're up against a hard break. So, Mark is making, I think, the excellent point. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to Mark in New Hampshire, but before we do, 7:20-ish, Wednesday, you know what that means. Truth or troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who in an interview with the New York Times decided to threaten Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is perhaps planning to visit New York for the UN General Assembly. You pledged during your campaign and after you won to order his arrest to comply with the International Criminal Court warrant. What will happen if he comes in September?
Look, I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
So there it is. Bibi Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. Is he telling the truth here, or is he just trolling to kind of get support from the anti-Israel crowd?
Well, Mike, that's a great question. I think, he is telling the truth in the sense that he hates Netanyahu, but he hates Israel in general, and I think he hates every Jew on this planet. So would he love to see Bibi in handcuffs, in the dock, in The Hague? Yeah, no question. But, he's also a politician, and he knows how to rile up his base and play to his base. And, they don't want Bibi at the dock. They want him swinging from a tree. That's what his base really wants. You're talking about hardcore, vicious anti-Semites. So, no, I think he's trolling. I think he's playing to the radical left. I think he's playing to the anti-Semites, the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party. But I'm telling you, he's playing with fire. And if I were him, I would be very careful. Because, it's easy to call for other politicians to be put behind bars. I think Mamdani should look in the mirror. Because he's starting to commit now crime after crime after crime. And pretty soon, I think the voters of New York are going to demand that he be put behind bars. So let me ask all of you. New York City Mayor Mamdani says he wants to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to speak to the UN. Does he really mean it? Or is he just trolling supporters of Israel? A, he means it. It's the truth. B, he's just trolling. I think he's trolling personally, but that's me. It's up to you to vote. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X, and yes, I'm always active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
All right, Jeff. Now it's time for the Alice in Wonderland part of our conversation.
Go ahead.
Ready to go
Drop
down
the
the
hammer,
rabbit
my
hole
friend.
with me? Okay. I'm in tech. That's what I do for work. Okay. I work with a lot of touch panel control systems, kiosks, all that kind of stuff. If you've ever tried to use one, many times you'll see when you go to hit the button, it doesn't trigger it. Why? Because the calibration's off, right? It's a little left, a little right. It's not quite where you're supposed to touch, right? Every good piece of equipment has software embedded in it that auto-calibrates, okay? Or you can run a manual calibration to kind of fix that. I did some asking, Jeff, because I was curious. The software that's embedded in the DMV systems for New Jersey is called Assure, A-S-S-U-R-E, right? Guess who else uses that calibration software, Jeff? Dominion voting systems, Jeff.
Oh,
the
really?
same company that calibrates the New Jersey systems is also involved in calibrating the voting systems, Jeff. How many times during the election did you hear people saying, well, I pressed Trump, but it selected Biden? Well, that's the calibration of that screen. Those systems, Jeff, are supposed to auto-calibrate consistently throughout the day. That's how that embedded software works. There should never be a calibration problem, Jeff. So if you're hitting the button and it's choosing the one to the right, either it's a failure or it's a programming problem. Now, who owns Assure? It's owned by a company called AssureX. And who's the CEO of AssureX? Hardcore leftist. This woman, her name is Tamar June. She hates Trump, has been opposed to Trump for a long time. So you ask yourself, Jeff, if the calibration is off just enough and it triggers the wrong votes, is that just a coincidence or is it a program?
Mark, let me ask you, what do you think the answer is? Let's just take the New Jersey scandal. Do you think that was just incompetence, a quote-unquote software glitch, an error, as Governor Mikey Sherrill said? Or do you think there's something more nefarious at work? Okay, very quickly, because we're going to go right back to Mark in New Hampshire. Bombshell yesterday, the Democratic governor of New Jersey, again, she's a Democrat, Mikey Sherrill, admitted that there was a massive problem with their voter registration software, according to her, a glitch, an error, in which 6,600 non-citizens, illegal aliens, were illegally registered to vote from starting in June of 2023. She also said that they've tracked that at least 400 of them actually voted. So everything that Trump said about our election system not being safe, that voter fraud is happening, that it's taking place in blue states, has been completely and utterly vindicated. And the question now is it time to pass the Save America Act? 617-266-6868. And is this now just the tip of the iceberg? Let's go right back to Mark in New Hampshire. Mark, you were on absolute fire in the last segment, saying that the very software company that designed the voting registration system, the software for New Jersey, is the same one that does the voting systems for the entire country. And so if they can rig it in New Jersey, they can rig it across the country. And so my question to you, was this just a coincidence, an honest mistake, a quote-unquote glitch, or do you think it was deliberate? What say you, Mark?
Very hard to believe. I would find it very hard to believe that this was any kind of a glitch, Jeff. Based on how that software runs, it can't be any kind of a calibration glitch. The only way this, in theory, is some kind of a software problem is if it's after they've done their selections. And that's usually at the hands of someone tabulating and someone entering data, Jeff. So did the software do it? I tend to doubt it. I think this is more of an activist, someone on the inside that is just pushing these things through and not bothering, to look and see and saying, yep, this person's good. I see that guy. This is more, I think, tampering, Jeff, really, to be honest, because if it were, there would be other aspects of those registrations that were wrong. You know, calibration doesn't affect one little tiny spot. It affects the entire screen. That's the problem with these touch screens, is as they get used, they need to be recalibrated. But like I said, the software is supposed to auto-calibrate all the time. And if it's not, guess what? That's the problem. Here's the other thing, Jeff. You know, we heard over and over again about the Dominion stuff. No way these hard drives weren't hacked. You know, you can't hack them. This is true. But the software runs outside the hard drive, Jeff. This is a separate drive that runs these screens. That software is accessible, Jeff, from the outside world. That's how they maintain it. That's how they constantly update it. So to say that the Dominion machines weren't accessed is probably true. But the software very easily could have been through the back door they have installed in all of these things.
Interesting. Final question, Mark, and I think it's the $64,000 question. Mikey Sherrill, the governor, says, well, only, according to her, 6,600 illegals, non-citizens, were registered and put on the voting rolls. And only 400 or so actually voted. Do you believe that? Or do you think we're looking at the tip of the iceberg?
This is the tip of the Antarctic, Jeff. Okay, this is not just an iceberg. You know, what you've got is they got caught, and to try to get out ahead of it, they said, oh, you know, we did an audit and we found 6,500 of these. You know, shame on us for letting them through. But what they don't tell you, Jeff, is all of the people who checked citizen is probably closer to 50 to 75,000. So you've got probably close to 100,000 people that are registered to vote in the state of New Jersey that shouldn't be. But there's no way to know unless the federal government gets cooperation, and that's never going to happen.
Bingo. As always, Mark, home run. You hit it right out of the park. Mark, thank you very, very much for that call. See, that's my point. My point is, well, what about those that checked yes? Are you an American citizen? Because then you're automatically put on the registration rolls. You're registered to vote. You don't have to show any proof. It's literally, as I said, based on the honor code. It's just, you know, we're trusting you to be honest. That's it. There's no guardrails whatsoever, no constraints, no checks and balances, no verification system. Come on. I mean, you know, I know the Democrats think we're stupid, but I'm telling you, we're not that stupid. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. New Jersey has admitted that non-citizens are voting. Is this why other blue states, say like Massachusetts or California, have refused to turn over their state voter rolls to the federal government? In other words, if they hand them over, we're going to find out just how many freaking illegals and non-citizens have been registered and have been voting for years. A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand. I am a hell yes on this one all the way, but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mel.
It's going to be tough trying to follow all those perfect calls that you've had. Terrific calls. You know, what I feel is though, election integrity is at the foremost. And what we've got to do, or what has to happen, is that we've got to go back to paper ballots at the district that you're voting in, goes into a box with a thumbprint on it, just like they did over in Afghanistan. I believe it was Afghanistan, and maybe a couple of other countries over there in the Middle East, to verify there's no duplication. And as far as 6,000 illegals voting in New Jersey, or in the general election, if you got a pinpoint dead heat tied between two candidates that you couldn't slide a paper dowel in between a set tight, and you got one illegal alien ballot that makes that difference, or either the Democrat or the Republican. I mean, you don't tell me that 6,000 votes did not have an effect on an election. Ray Charles can see that 6,000 or even one, just like I mentioned, has an effect on the election. And these Democrats, I'll tell you what, Jeff, I wouldn't PI double snakes on a Democrat if he was laying down here in front of me on fire to put him out. I'm telling you right now, I despise that. I'm surrounded. Where I live in Saratoga Springs, it used to be all black and Italians and some Irish in the neighborhood. But all the old generations have died off, and the kids have sold the properties. And now, after 9/11, they had all these transplants that moved into the area. I'm surrounded by liberals and them. And they know. Don't speak to me. I don't like you. You just don't. You could just leave. Hello, goodbye. That's it. Well, that's as far as it goes with me. But as I mentioned before, election integrity has to be first and foremost.
Oh, I agree.
And somebody's got to be
as usual. Mel, you're, as I like to say, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. Election integrity is the number one issue. It's the key issue. It's the top issue. I know the war in Iran is important, obviously. Inflation, affordability, these are key, the border, obviously, very important. But if we don't have honest, safe, free, fair elections, we don't have a republic. We don't have a democracy. We don't have a country. And Mel, I think you put your finger on it. The liberals are cheating. The Dems are cheating. And they know they're cheating. And they know that this system benefits them. And that's why they continue to allow illegals to keep coming in. That's why they don't want to pass voter ID. That's why they don't want to show proof of citizenship to register to vote. And that's why they want to keep the voting fraud machine, the election corruption going. And because they know that without it, they can't win. And so they're going to do everything in their power to keep our elections as dishonest and as dirty as possible. And what they don't understand is that the public is losing confidence in the election system. And pretty soon it's going to be to the point where we're not going to recognize the legitimacy of any winner or of any loser. If you don't believe the elections are on the up and up, people are not going to recognize the results. Okay, to show you now the way the Democrats are trying to circle the wagons and do everything in their power to either minimize or dismiss or cover up this obviously massive voting fraud scandal. I want you to listen now to the Democrat senator from New Jersey, Andy Kim. And they put him on MS now, and look at this guy spin. They're spinning and spinning and spinning. Roll cut 12, a mic.
Look, I mean, this is unacceptable, and this needs to be fixed immediately, and people need to be held accountable for that, especially if they've known this since it's happened a couple years ago. So yes, when there are mistakes, when there are things that are broken, we need to fix it. But we also need to make sure that we're looking at the problems in the right size, that this is not akin to what Donald Trump was talking about. Yes, this is something that needs fixing, but it's not this widespread systemic problem that Trump has been using and weaponizing to try to push forward a very extreme agenda when it comes to deterring voters and other things that he's been trying to push on with his conspiracy theories and delusions about winning the 2020 election. But yes, it's certainly something that we need to fix.
There you go. You see, it's real. Sure. Illegals were registered. Illegals voted. But come on now. Let's not all get excited about this. Because it's all about evil Trump. And, of course, evil Orange Man hasn't been vindicated. So, okay, people have to be held accountable. All right, let's just very quick. What do you want to bet? What do you want? I'll bet you the best steak at your steakhouse of choice. Please don't do the bet because I'm telling you, you're going to lose a very expensive meal. No one's going to be held accountable. No one's going to be indicted. No one's being charged. No one's going to prison. Hell, no one's even going to lose their job. Okay? So this whole idea of we're going to be accountability, we have to have it. Okay? BS. Bravo, Sierra. Now, as for, well, it's not as widespread as Trump says. Well, how do you know? Have you done a thorough audit? Yet. Have you let the federal government take a look? The Department of Justice? Yet. So, no, you haven't done any of those things. So, what, we're just supposed to take... So the party that's been caught cheating, because remember, this happened under a previous Democrat governor, Phil Murphy, that hack, and now apparently there was a whistleblower, so this Democrat governor, this is all a Democrat scandal, she had to come and beat the whistleblower to the punch. That's the only reason why we're even finding out about it. That's how committed they are to, honest elections. This is so unacceptable. Yeah, why'd you guys cover it up then? For years you covered it up. Unacceptable. Yeah, so you swept it under the rug, huh? Until you couldn't. You phony, you fraud, you. All right. Listen now, one more cut. Jake Tapper, fake Tapper on CNN. Even CNN. This is CNN. Even CNN said, this doesn't look good for the Democrats. You guys have been saying the most secure elections. This never happens. It's a figment of Trump's imagination. It's a figment of Kuhner's imagination. MAGA is making this stuff up. And then all of a sudden, thousands and thousands and thousands are just being registered. And apparently you're saying hundreds are voting. And who knows how far this scandal goes. Roll cut 12, Mike.
Mikey Sherrill, the governor of New Jersey, made this announcement today, a surprising announcement. Nearly 400 non-citizens voted in New Jersey elections as a result of what she calls a serious software error. Governor Sherrill posted this quote, as the Trump administration tries to weaponize elections for political gain, I am ensuring we protect our elections. She goes on to say the difference is simple. When we find a problem, we don't hide it, deny it, or invent conspiracies. We investigate it, we fix it, and we tell the public. I have to say, though, for Democrats, I'm not saying that the Save America, the SAVE Act is going to pass. Yeah. But this is not good for Democrats' argument that there's no such thing as undocumented immigrants voting.
Duh. You think? Huh? It's not good when they say, by the way, undocumented. I love how they phrase that. Hey, you're not an illegal. You forgot your papers in Tijuana, huh? I get it. You forgot them in Somalia. In Mogadishu. You just, son of a gun, you left them in Mogadishu. Anyway. So, look, if this doesn't supercharge the debate over the Save America Act, if this doesn't light a fire under Republicans, then I don't know what else will. I mean, seriously. 83 to 85% of voters want the Save America Act passed. Republican, Democrat, Independent, white, black, brown, Asian, male, female, old, young, gay, straight. I don't care how you slice and dice this. Why? Because everybody in their gut, everybody using common sense, understands that our elections are corrupt. That's why the rank and file of all parties and independents, grassroots people, ordinary voters saying, no, you need photo voter. By the way, to Senator Andy Kim, that's so extreme. That's an extreme agenda. What, photo voter ID? I went to see the eye doctor yesterday. You know, I have glaucoma because of my type 2 diabetes, so I'm taking care of it. I'm getting treatment for it. I went to check in. You know what she asked me for? My photo ID. Do you have proof that you are who you say you are? So she asked me, said, do you have photo identification? Here's my driver's license. No problem. I flipped it out. So I'm not complaining. I think it's, of course, you don't want somebody pretending to be me, or I understand. But if I've got to show photo ID, I'm just talking one day in the life of Jeff Kuhner. I went to the doctor. I had to show photo ID. Then I stopped off at my CVS pharmacy on the way back. Guess what? I had to show again photo ID. So if I've got to show photo ID to see a doctor, if I've got to show photo ID to get medications, but suddenly when it's time to vote, here, I don't know, but my God, I mean, it's equivalent to rape, for God's sake. So showing proof of citizenship, because if you have to show proof of citizenship, what happened in New Jersey can't happen. Yes, I'm a citizen. Really? Show the proof. I don't have it. Well, then it's a no. That's why they're against the Save America Act. Because it'll block them off. They can't cheat. 617-266-6868. Bruce is... Are you there? What do you think? Is he at a 7-Eleven, Mike? It's like he's, like they're asking him, you want number one, you want number two, or like a sandwich shop or something? Bruce, are you there or are you ordering? All right. Bruce? Bruce, hello? Okay. All right, we got Bruce back, but he sounds like the robot. All right, Bruce, let's see if we've established a real connection with you.
Hi.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Am I interrupting your breakfast run at Dunkin' Donuts?
No, I'm at work.
Oh, you're at work. Okay, sorry. I heard number one, number two. All right, Bruce, go ahead, my friend.
I'm a working American. Yeah.
So you're part of the deplorables, huh?
Part of the deplorables. Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you.
I wanted to sing that song for you. Should I sing it again?
Which song? Well, thank you for holding, Bruce. I appreciate it. What's on your mind, my friend?
It's on my mind. Listen, hear me out on this. We are at a turning point for our country, and civil discourse is what the deep state wants here on our streets. People in violence, debating these issues. But there is a fix-all for our problem. The problem exists with our legislators, those that have been elected to represent the people. Okay? So now I call upon the country's father, President Trump. Hear this message. We have a situation here which is going to be in your office. You have to decide what's going to take place. If this election or the integrity election integrity, Save America, doesn't pass, and the elections go toward the deep state, their agenda, the next thing that would have to take place is tribunals, military tribunals. And President Trump, I plead with you that this is something that is going to happen, because the example will be set for those that cheat on elections, and it's treasonous. I feel I've been cheated with my vote. All it takes is one illegal vote, and I've been cheated on my representation.
Oh, no question.
Bruce,
I promise I'll let you finish your point, because you're touching on something so raw and I think so fundamentally important. Bruce, look, I'm not trying to wind you up. I know you're at work and you're, like me and so many others, you're a hard-working stiff. You're trying to do the best you can to feed your family and, put a roof over everyone's head and put, bread on the table and food on the table and pay your taxes and you work hard. I hear you. So the last thing I want to do is, get you even more revved up. But, no truer words were spoken than what you just said now. Your vote, I guarantee you, has been negated. And that of every other member of this audience. I don't care if you live in Maine. I don't care if you live in New Hampshire. I don't care if you live in Massachusetts. I don't care if you live in Rhode Island. I don't care if you live in New York. We have listeners in Minnesota. We have listeners in Ohio. We have listeners in California. I don't want to repeat every state, but we have listeners everywhere. I'm telling you, your vote has been negated. And the only question now, and this is why they're fighting so ferociously, they are cheating. We know that. They're cheating by the millions. We know that. Actually, I think now it's tens of millions. We know that. Okay, that there's no question anymore. I think it's been going on much longer than we even suspect. I think that's what they ultimately fear. In their minds, they think they can rationalize cheating under Trump because they've built him up into Hitler. So, he's going to steal our democracy. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. The whole thing. But he's a dictator, blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at the way they've set up their voting machine in city after city, state after state. Bruce, I'm telling you, I covered the 2012 election between Obama and Romney. And I kept asking myself, how is Obama in the lead? I see nothing but opposition everywhere I go. And I went to multiple states. I covered that campaign. I said, none of this is adding up. So, and I remember on election night, there were many like, what? How's this happening? How are all these counties all of a sudden going for Obama? How is he suddenly winning states that the polls were showing before that he was losing? So what I'm saying is, I think the rot is deeper and extends much longer than we ever could have imagined. And our voices are being stifled, and our votes are being negated. They're canceling our votes. And if you cancel the votes of the citizens, then I'm telling you, you don't have a republic anymore. You don't have a democracy. It is the purest corruption of a democratic republic. Because what you have are foreigners, illegals, non-citizens, non-Americans, whose votes are countering. Their votes are eliminating or negating that of citizens. So you're attacking the very sovereignty of our country. And so I agree with you. And I think, look, if I were Trump, this is the scandal I pounce on, because they silenced him or tried to silence him on Thursday. The networks wouldn't air, to me, his brilliant and extremely important speech. Well, now he's been completely vindicated. They can say whatever they want. Trump said there was cheating going on. My God, there's cheating. He said illegals were being registered to vote. Bingo. He said illegals were voting. Bingo. He said the Democrats were colluding. Bingo. Bruce, I think it's now, especially with the SAVE Act on the line. And he's got to ask the Republicans, are you all that stupid that you're willing to allow a system that's going to help the other side cheat and steal elections and send you guys into the dustbin of history? Are you Republicans willing to commit suicide? And the country to commit suicide in the process? Because you don't have the stones, the cojones, to stand up to the Democrats and their liars in the media? Because that's what it is now. It's time to stand up and be counted. Forgive me, are you a patriot or are you not a patriot? Are you willing to speak truth to power? Yes, they're going to mock you. Who cares if they mock you? Who cares for their attention or their approval? The truth is the truth is the truth. And the truth is, citizens' votes, legal U.S. citizens, our votes are being canceled and annulled. And I can't think of, in a republic, I don't think there's any higher crime. Bruce, final word to you, my friend.
I love the truth like you love the truth. We know the devil is a liar, and he is a liar from the beginning. And the Democratic Party has allowed this devil to come into their party and subvert and destroy. Jeff, I know you respect military. They have a high place and with you, and I am non-military. I've never served, but I know I still can. And I call upon the president, I plead with the president that do what you have to do, dear president. I love you. And Jeff, I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruce, for that call. No, I think what he has to do now is come out and say, we're going to revoke all federal funding from every single state that refuses to hand over the state voter rolls. That's it. In fact, I would use this to call a national emergency. Declare a national emergency. The election system in New Jersey is dirty, and they won't hand over the state voting rolls. Because I guarantee you, Trump says there's at least 35,000, not 6,000. Now, if it's 35,000, I'm telling you, first of all, just so that you know, 13 elections were held in New Jersey. Many of them local. I'm not talking big, state elections or federal elections, but 13 elections were held in this time period whereby the difference between the winner and the loser was either 10 or less votes. So 10 votes, 9 votes, whatever, 8 votes was the difference between winning and losing. Don't tell me it didn't have an impact. By their own admission, they've got 6,600 registered illegals and 400 and over voting. That's 13 elections now that could potentially be overturned. And I'm telling you, Trump came out and said, look, we did just a cursory look at the data. There's 35,000 illegals we know of registered in New Jersey. He said 250,000 in several blue states, New Jersey being one of them. And so it's much higher than 35,000, but they just did a quick scan. Now, if just 35,000 alone, and I'm telling you now, you have a complete political constitutional crisis in New Jersey. That's just New Jersey. You have to call a national emergency, declare a national emergency, and then say, okay, fine, I'm not going to send in the army because then you're going to call me a dictator, but you're going to lose all federal funding, everything, unless you hand over your state voting rolls. All we want to do is cross-reference with the national database. So all we want to do is there a non-citizen or an illegal alien or a dead person still actively voting, obviously, that is on these voting rolls? That's it. That's all we want. And then we purge them. We just want honest voting rolls. Only American citizens should vote in American elections. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 603, and I think it's very concise, very surgical, and right to the point. Jeff, let's call it for what it is. Voter nullification. Every illegal ballot cast for one side nullifies a legal vote cast on the other side. Bingo. Bingo. It's voter nullification. And to me, it's one of the worst things you could ever do. In a civilized country, never mind in a constitutional republic. 617-266-6868. Okay. Michael on Messenger sent a question over and asked the Kuhner Man, hey, Jeff, was New Jersey one of the states that refused to hand over their voter list to the feds? Yep. California, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, Rhode Island, Connecticut. I don't know if I mentioned New York or not, but the same thing. You see a pattern here? Huh? You see? Huh? Maine, by the way, Maine now doesn't want to send their voting list, their state voter rolls. I wonder why. Now, I'm telling you right now, if I was advising Mikey Sherrill, if I'm a corrupt Democrat, I'd say, listen, no matter what, I don't care if the tanks are rolling into Newark, don't hand over the state voting rolls, the voter list, to the DOJ and the feds. Because what they're going to find is that we lied about the 6,600 being registered. They're going to see it was at least 60, 70, 100,000 registered. And then we're finished. I mean, kaput. We're done. Everything goes right down the drain. 617-266-6868. Jeff in the great state of Ohio. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Hey, thank you for taking my phone call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Jeff.
Hey, it's really sad to sit there and watch our President of the United States point out all the corruption that has been going on and doesn't do anything about it. We were told 2 years ago, vote Republican, we're going to take care of deportation. We're going to lock people up from Comey all the way up to Mayorkas. There's going to be people held accountable. We're going to get our country back. Almost three months from midterms, we got little Johnson out there going, oh, you need to vote Republicans. That's the only way it's going to save our country. The first thing Trump needed to do was his deportation. The Democrats are going to run out the 20 to 30 million illegals are in this country, and as soon as they get the House and the Senate, they're going to give amnesty. So this paper that they're touting right now isn't going to be worth the paper it's written on, because then they're going to be legally allowed to vote. So you're going to have 30 million registered Democrats. They're going to bypass the safety paper, whatever. That goes all the way back to Mayorkas, and that goes back to the Catholic Charities. There's pilots that flew them in. All those illegal people, they know who they are. Nobody's going to jail. The people that were photographed stuffing ballot boxes, none of those are going to jail. There is nobody going to jail. Nobody's being held responsible, so it's just a free-for-all out there. And the people that are voting for this have all cheated to get in there to begin with. So why would they vote against, their bread and butter? They're all getting rich, and we're all sitting here scratching our heads like, hey, what about Omar? She's illegal. She needs to be thrown out of the country. What about Hillary? Lock her up. No, nothing happens. So I'm disenchanted with the whole thing to where I don't care who wins the next thing because it's not going to matter. I hate to say it that way, but they have completely defanged us. I'm sorry, but that just makes me madder than you know what.
Well, no, you have the Jeff. Please, you have the right to your feelings, and there's no need to apologize, and you have the right to your opinion and to your point of view. Look, the Republicans have let us down. I think there's no question. I think Mike Johnson has been a disaster. I think John Thune, if it's possible, has been even a worse disaster. And they may really suffer at the polls. I agree with you. I think the only ace in the hole that the Republicans have is that you see these Democrats, especially these socialist Democrats of America, are so radical, so kooky. I mean, it's communism. They want a full-blown communist revolution. A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Okay, obviously, New Jersey now for today, yesterday, today, is at the epicenter of this election corruption, voter fraud that we know is a cancer on the entire country. But just for a couple minutes, I want, please, if you can just indulge me, what really has launched everything, obviously, was President Trump's historic landmark speech that he delivered from the Oval Office on Thursday. And as I said, I thought it was one of the most important speeches in American history, where he documented and exposed that communist China, in particular the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has penetrated our election system, infiltrated, were colluding with the Democrats, especially in 2020, but in other elections, to help Joe Biden steal the election and take it away from Donald Trump. And furthermore, that many journalists are on the take. They were taking money from the CCP to write negative stories against Trump, to pretend that voter fraud doesn't happen. Now, New Jersey is such a body blow to them because they have been telling us ridiculously that there is no voter fraud, illegals never vote, and that our election system is the most secure in the world. Again, another pack of lies. And what he also exposed was that there were elements of the deep state, especially the CIA and the FBI, that knew China had infiltrated our election system. They were doing everything possible to collude with the Democrats and Biden to steal the election from Trump and to overthrow him from power. And, this is the kicker, they deliberately covered it up. Now, investigative journalist Catherine Herridge, and she's one of the best in the business. Okay, whatever you think about her politics, she's an old school journalist who just follows the facts wherever they may lead and let the consequences play out. So, Catherine Herridge reviewed the documents, the declassified sensitive documents that were released by the Trump administration, showing what China had been doing, the involvement of the media, the deep state, and of course the Democrats. Now, here is what she found. Here's what she found. She found CIA emails proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the CIA was working against Donald Trump to aid China and the Democrats in the 2020 election. Now, here is exactly what she says in her reporting. Quote, I've been digging into the documents already. This is Catherine Herridge. And I found a November 2020 email. And it specifically states it's a conversation among high-ranking intelligence officials, CIA. It specifically states that they have, quote, deliberately massaged one of our pending PDBS, question mark, quote unquote. The PDBS is the president's daily briefs. Every day the president gets an intelligence briefing. And they further say in the email that they massaged this pending president's daily brief to avoid any direct links to the 2020 election. In other words, scrub it all out. We don't want the president to know China is interfering. China has infiltrated. China has penetrated. And they're working with the Democrats. So avoid any discussion or links in the intelligence briefing, the daily presidential briefings that discuss all of what's going on. Now, this is what Catherine Herridge then says, quote, on the part of China, this was a massive effort, what they call a multi-domain operation. That means trade, meaning through business contacts. It means diplomacy. It means open source information, i.e. the media. It means social media. So all the levers of power China had to influence the U.S. election, they were going all out to bring Trump down. And then she says, and our own CIA, and you see this in email after email, document after document, where they're literally admitting this to one another. And our own CIA worked to make sure that President Trump wasn't aware of any of this information. They literally removed it from his daily briefing. Now, I'm telling you, and Catherine Herridge says, look, I'm sorry. I know the laws on treason. This was literally treason. You have a foreign power, never mind the foreign power, our number one enemy and adversary is going all out to infiltrate, penetrate, and influence an election against the sitting president of the United States. And they're actively colluding with the Democrats and with the Biden campaign. And they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink. And our intelligence community knows about it and is deliberately withholding this information from the president. It's treason. It's treason. Now, she goes on to say, quote, in the summer of 2020, as we're heading into the 2020 presidential election, in the intelligence community, there were indicators of this Chinese influence operation. Influence operations means that you're trying to affect the outcome of how people vote or their sentiment about a presidential candidate. This is different than an interference operation, which is penetrating voting rolls and voter systems. Okay, that's what they did in New Jersey. She goes on to say that there was a whistleblower, and this whistleblower was raising the alarm about the influence operation, the Chinese influence operation. And then suddenly, it all was suppressed. She says, I have found reports, documents, emails. In some of their reports, there were in the CIA officials' own handwriting that they wanted everything out that could help President Trump in his reelection. So there was clear evidence of political and personal bias. They wanted to remove, quote unquote, everything that could possibly help Trump win reelection. Again, literally treason. Now, she goes on to say, there was a former CIA officer, and I remember this, named Pedro Israel Orta. You can look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it. O-R-T-A, who worked at the CIA during the Trump administration in the first term. And he said that the CIA, listen to this, didn't even recognize Trump as the president. They wouldn't even put his picture up on the wall, which was customary for all presidents. And as the whistleblower, this former CIA officer, said, Pedro Israel Orta, they were actively working against Trump. That's why. Now, what we clearly know, and this is why the media didn't want to air what Trump said on Thursday. The media was complicit. The media was corrupt and on the take. They were taking money. The CIA, the deep state, and we saw that throughout all of Trump's first term, were dead set against him. They wouldn't even put his picture on the wall. And they were working with our mortal enemy, Communist China, on behalf of the Democratic Party in order to defeat President Trump and guarantee that he not win re-election in 2020. This is treason. This is a betrayal. These are Benedict Arnolds. Dr. Grace is warming up in the bullpen. We're going to have her on in 10 minutes. Very quick, because I'm going to the phones. The lines are jammed. This is from, again, 603. Jeff, we have the best Congress money can buy. We have the best media money can buy. And now we have the best CIA and FBI money can buy. I mean, that sums up Catherine Herridge's reporting, I think, in a nutshell. I mean, is there anybody in Washington who's not a whore? I mean, is anybody not on the take? That's what I want to know. 617-266-6868. Okay, Mike, who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner man, good morning.
Hi.
How are you today? Hey, listen, I'll start off with this little joke. You know, it's the mouse. He says to the trap owner, "Hey, I'll gladly give you back the cheese if you let me out of the trap." And that's where America's heading right now, unless we get some boots on the ground taking some action. But I want to share with you some of the benefits that we can anticipate if we follow Mamdani, the Muslim African that's running New York City. And by the way, if Uganda sounds familiar to you, where Mamdani is from, that's where Idi Amin comes from. And Jeff, I know you know Idi Amin. General Idi Amin, dictator for life, who took over Uganda, bragged about eating human flesh, said That's it was right. Sweet.
Yeah, he ate his opponents. He literally ate his opponents. He ate them. Hated white people. Remember that? Discriminated against whites. Basically destroyed them. And hated Indians. And my God, did he hate Jews. So that's, that's Mamdani's political roots for you there. Now he's not eating people so far, Victor. But nothing would surprise me with this guy.
Mamdani is a socialist, and I am sick and tired of listening to the news that says socialism doesn't work. Socialism does work. Let's get an example of where it works. When the electricity runs out and they cannot, they can't pump the water into your home because there's no electricity, your job will be, under socialism, to walk a mile or two to the reservoir, fill up your 5-gallon jugs, and bring it back. That's socialism in action. And when there's no diesel fuel, Jeff, your job is to get your shovel, and if you don't do this as a good socialist, they will shut off your 2 hours of electricity per day. Your job was go with your shovel and start digging up the farmland because there's no plows coming, and they have to have that land prepped so that the seeds can be planted. That's socialism in action. And if you like the warm embrace of socialism, enjoy it because you're taking cold showers. Explain to your wife that you're here to fight the war on free enterprise. That's socialism in action. I hear these nitwits, Jeff, that all they ever say, and I've been saying it for 20 years, socialism doesn't work. That does not resonate with people. Tell them what they can look forward to. When the tree gets blown down in the middle of the night, you're ordered to show up with an axe and chop it up so that the leaders of your country can get down the road with their motor cars. But you know what? You're relegated to bicycles. That is what's coming if we do not mobilize and support the people. I'll tell you, if the guy in Ohio wants to do something to change the world, hey, call your neighbor and say, hey, until the communists leave the Democrat Party, let's vote Republican because we can't have these communist Democrats running the show. You can take action. You know what? I am one of those dreaded multimillionaires. I take action every day. I am up and at 'em at 5:30 every morning. Do you know why? Because I can. People do business with me because they can. When socialism gets here, Jeff, you do business with who they tell you to do business with. Back to you, man.
Bingo. Well, look, I mean, again, I don't want to get off track, but just look at what's happening now in Mamdani City. Okay, Mr. Socialist. You have 12 blocks. Let me repeat that. 12 blocks in which there's now a homeless encampment. It stinks. There are drug dealers, drug addicts, mentally insane people, homeless people, filth, forgive me, excrement, urination. They're urinating everywhere. And they've set up this makeshift homeless encampment. And it's just growing, and it went from 1 block to 2 blocks to 3 blocks. This is in Manhattan, by the way. This is what, this is where they do business. This is the commercial heartland, the commercial district of New York City. And you've got now this vast homeless encampment overrun with homeless people. You see them shooting up. You see the drug addicts passed out on the streets. Forgive me, you see them defecating. You see mentally ill homeless people everywhere. And it's like mushrooming and spreading. It went then to 6 blocks, then 8 blocks, then 10 blocks. Now it's at 12 blocks. You know what 12 blocks of a massive homeless encampment is? 12 freaking blocks. And this guy refuses to do anything. They have a right to live on the sidewalk. They have a right to urinate and defecate where they want. If they want to do heroin right in front of your children, or as you're going to work to the office, or right in front of your office building, they're just laying there, shooting up. Hey, those are my people. It's literally becoming a garbage dump. Never mind the squalor, never mind the filth, never mind the crime, never mind the drug addicts, never mind all of that. The people of Manhattan are saying, Jeff, it stinks. They're complaining to the media. They're saying it smells so bad. We can't work here. We can't live here. We don't even want to go to the office. And this is supposed to be the financial center of the entire United States. Arguably the world. And this is, by the way, and this is what they want for the whole country. So, okay, you want socialism? That's socialism. So enjoy it. Believe me, it's no utopia. It's a dystopia. You're being lied to. But I'll tell you, you know who doesn't live in the squalor? Mamdani. Beautiful apartment worth millions of dollars. Nice high-rise. Don't worry. He and his wife and his cronies, they live high on the hog. No, the squalor, the homeless people, the drug addicts, the criminals, the excrement, the urine, that's for you. That's for you, the peasants. But for the leaders, the communist leaders, no. they live in a different place. They don't walk there. They don't do business there. For them, they don't go anywhere near there. That's for the working people. And notice, Victor, communists always say they're for the, quote, working class or the working people. Yet everywhere they've taken power, what do? They murder working people. They enslave working people. They immiserate working people. They imprison and jail working people. I know. My grandfather was a peasant. He was a working man, worked with his hands. So when they say they're for the working class, no. They're the mortal enemy of the working class. Just ask the poor working people in New York who have to battle 12 blocks of a freaking homeless encampment just to go to work. Victor, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Marie in Peabody. Thanks for holding, Marie, and welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Marie.
Hi. I just want to let you know about how good the Democratic machine is. I live in a community that had the executive director of the League of Women come in, Cecilia Canavan. She talked all about how there was no voter fraud, how there was only 4 cases in the entire history of voter fraud that they caught. And at the end of this very one-sided, she kept saying, we're nonpartisan. The Women's League of Voters is nonpartisan. But everything she said was anti-Republican. So at the end of this, they said, okay, we want to give you postcards for you to get ready and mail out. I got a stack of 25 postcards that say North Carolina votes. And they gave me a list of 25 people in North Carolina and their addresses for me to send these postcards to because they're a swing state. And they want us to mail them out on October 21st to make sure it gets to these people to encourage them to vote. So I just, we're in Massachusetts, and they have us sending out postcards to other states to try to encourage them to vote the right way.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Marie, I got to tell you, there was a term used called a Potemkin village. It was first used under the Tsar in Russia. Then it got perfected by the communists. And what you're describing to me is a Potemkin village. And so what the Soviets, the communists would do, and by the way, it's Mao picked it up, Castro picked it up, Chavez and Maduro in Venezuela picked it up, North Korea's picked it up. So this is what communist regimes do everywhere, is they then invite people to visit, foreigners, journalists or whatever, sympathizers, and they show them a Potemkin village, which is basically a fake, phony village, where you see these smiling, with these big cheeks, children and, men and women who say they're happy and very well fed and they've got great health care and, the communism it's a dream, it's a utopia. And of course, they're all actors. None of it is true. It's all fake. It's a facade. What you're describing now, what you just described, with that ridiculous woman and this voting league and claiming they're nonpartisan and saying only 4 cases of voter fraud, only 4. That's a modern day Democrat Potemkin village. That's lying through their teeth. That's an illusion. That's deliberate gaslighting and manipulation in order to cover up monstrous fraud and monstrous crimes. On its face, just like these Potemkin villages, on its face, you mean you have no disease? No. No one's unemployed? No. No one's poor? No. No one's unhappy? No. So you guys have literally no problems? No. It's heaven. Okay, so in a country of 340 million people, you're going to tell me that there's only 4 cases of voter fraud? Like, that's impossible. That's impossible. I can give you one city anywhere in North America, never mind Europe or other places, where you're going to get, hundreds of examples of voter fraud. I'm not just talking about now. I'm talking even in the past. Chicago was notorious. What do they say in Chicago? Vote early, vote often. Tammany Hall. My God, in New York, they was ripe with corruption. To come here and say, only 4 cases of voter fraud. That's like an election run by Saddam Hussein or Stalin. Really, 99.8%? Really? Really? Well, who are the 0.2% that voted against you? That's what I'd like to know. Marie, it's insulting to everyone's intelligence. And you're absolutely right. They're not nonpartisan. They're the most partisan group around. And if they're going to tell you only 4 instances of voter fraud, everybody should have laughed in their face. Marie, great story, great call. Thank you so much. Okay, we've made contact. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Dr. Grace Vuoto. Full disclosure, my better half, my wonderful wife, she married down, I married up. Grace, how are you?
I am very good. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Okay, Governor Mikey Sherrill, Democrat, has now come out and admitted over 6,600 illegals or non-citizens. She says due to a software error, doesn't matter, it happened, were put on the registration voter rolls. And now she says about 400 voted. So is Trump now vindicated? Has he been shown conclusively that illegal aliens have been registered to vote, that illegal aliens have been voting? And is this just the tip of the iceberg? What say you?
Jeff, there's no question about it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And isn't it amazing that every time there is a technological error, it benefits the Democrats? Every time. Every time there's a mistake, guess who gets the roll of the dice in their direction? The Democrats. Have you ever seen or heard a story of a report where it's the Republicans that get the benefit of a voter error, some machine or something? I don't know. There was a mistake, but you know what? More Republicans ended up voting accidentally. No, it never happens that way. So there is systematic. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What a coincidence, huh? It's just boy, oh boy.
Every time, even when you're caught. Oh my gosh, software glitch. But guess what? They were all switched to the Democratic advantage. That defies every statistic of probability, right? There can't be that many mistakes that always benefit one party. It's all accidental. And what's strange about this story is, so these non-citizens, they were asked the question, are you a citizen? And apparently they reported no, but the machine switched it to yes. And then some of them, knowing that they're non-citizens, said, oh, okay, I'm going to go vote. La-di-da. I mean, they should have simply said, no, listen, this is obviously a mistake. I'm not going to go vote. And they didn't do that either. So we see that the whole system broke down in several places.
Grace, what do you think the consequences and ramifications are going to be now? The White House came out right away with a blistering statement straight from the president saying it proves everything I'm saying is true. The only thing is, I think this is just the beginning. This is just the surface. We're barely scratching the surface. Does this now fully justify the Save America Act? And will it light a fire under these Republicans to finally pass it? What are we now? 10 days left before the deadline. Is this going to move the needle in any way?
Jeff, sadly, I don't think it is, because it's obvious that the Republican Party doesn't want to get this done for President Trump. I think it's obvious that they want to see him go down in November, and I think they've actively been working against him. At the same time, Jeff, I think there's plenty of blame to go around on this, because this should have been passed last year. This should have been done last year. This should have been on the president's agenda last year. The closer we get to the midterms, the more it muddies the waters as to, what are the Republicans' motives? What are the president's motives? Is this really being driven by the fact that he's underwater in many of the polls? So I think had this been done last year, there would have been even more credibility. And what we saw even this year, Jeff, was that the House passed it February 11. And I think that this is the kind of bill where the president has to be involved every step of the way, every single day. So if this is going to get done, it's Trump that's the only one that's going to get it done. I don't think they're just going to say, oh, yeah, let's bail him out. I think he has to be cajoling them, meeting with them every single day, pressuring them relentlessly. Otherwise, it will not get done. And that's typically what we see, that big pieces of legislation only get done when the president is really active every day on it. That's just typical, of any administration. And it's all the more so when his own party, many of them, are clearly sabotaging his agenda.
Grace, I want to go back to by the way, I think you're completely right. I want to go back to something that you said earlier. We know the Democrats want to sink Trump, and that's why they're against the Save America Act, is they need, they benefit from voter fraud, and they need all of these illegal aliens to vote, and these non-citizens. But you said the Republicans, he goes on the Hill, on the congressional Republicans, the establishment, that they want to see Trump fail. Why? Because if Trump goes down, in a way, don't they go down? They lose their majority in the House. They lose their majority in the Senate. Don't they want to keep themselves in the majority? What say you?
Well, you have some of them now that have already lost primaries, right? So Trump voted against them, or basically endorsed candidates opposing them. So they want revenge against him. So you have that group in the Senate. They're not going to help him out. They want vengeance because he got them out. So that's one group. There's another group, like Senator Toon, who is just pretending to be MAGA, but he's establishment all the way in terms of his ideology, and he thinks that Trump is a menace to the country. So there's plenty of people who think that they're morally justified in what they're doing, and they're actively sabotaging MAGA because they think that MAGA's mandate is totally misguided. So there's just a variety of reasons, and that's why the only way that this gets done is if the president makes deals with individual senators. He's got to be actively involved, making it in their self-interest. He's got to find a way with each senator to turn that vote around, make it in their self-interest.
I agree. No, Grace, I agree. We got about 30 seconds, so I need you to be very, quick and concise. Thune is now the Senate Majority Leader. If he sinks Trump, and I agree with you, he hates Trump, he wants to be Senate Minority Leader? I mean, is he that, cutting off his nose to spite his face? I mean, I understand he hates him politically, but doesn't he value power more? What's your quick answer?
Oh, I really don't think so. I think that he, for his own...
Okay, let me throw another mini log, a small log on the fire. You think Grace is right when she said in her, her hit that she just did in the last segment, where she said that many Republicans on Capitol Hill, establishment Republicans, anti or never Trump Republicans, want to see Trump go down in November as badly as the Democrats do. And that's why they're not going to lift a finger to see the SAVE Act passed. Because in many ways, they hate Trump and his agenda and us, MAGA, America First, whatever you want to call us, as much as the Democrat Party. Now, I asked her about, well, look, doesn't Thune want to be majority leader? Because she said, Thune clearly is trying to sabotage the president's agenda. And by the way, I agree. I said, but he's spiting his nose to, he's cutting off his nose to spite his face. He's going to go from Senate Majority Leader to Senate Minority Leader. Doesn't he want the power? Doesn't he crave the power? Here's what she wrote. Jeff, Thune is concerned to protect his reputation among the establishment, and he will derive massive benefits from this. What is his self-interest? ? He may get benefits we're not aware of by sinking Trump. Also, for his legacy, he wants to preserve his standing as one who was quote unquote responsible. So how does he define his power? This is what drives him, not the MAGA America First agenda. You know what? I think she hit the nail right on the head. Believe me, he'll make, like Judas, he'll make out like a bandit. And of course, keep his quote unquote reputation intact in the process. Okay, very, very quickly, I'm getting a lot of these. This is from Carol, an email that Carol sent me. And by the way, I've heard many people say this. So this is what Carol wrote to me. Jeff, last year when I had to renew my driver's license, I went to a AAA office. They can renew driver's licenses just like the registry. A question on the form asked me if I wanted to register to vote. I wrote no to see what would happen. Later, when I got the printed paper license, it said I was registered to vote. So, whether it was a human error or a computer error, how many others are being automatically registered in this crooked state of Massachusetts? I mean, there you have it. So, and I can read more. If you want, I can just keep reading. I'm getting emails, text messages, people saying the exact same thing. Jeff, I renew my license. Or I said, no, I don't register me to vote. And boom, I'm registered to vote. So what's happening in New Jersey is happening here. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
John, hold on. We're having a hard time. We can barely hear you. Let's see if we can reconnect. Mike, you want to go somewhere else? You want to go back to John? All right, let's go back to John. John, let's see if we've reestablished a good connection with you. Are you there, John?
I'm here, Jeff.
Yes, loud and clear. All right, go ahead, John.
All right, Jeff.
John, hang on. It's all garbling now. We can barely hear you. John, hang on. Try to hang on, and we're going to come back to you, and hopefully we can fix it. Paula in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Paula, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Long time. Haven't had a chance to call in.
Great to hear from you. Go ahead, Paula.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, I want to go back to when Trump was first elected. And I remember Communist News Network used to bring us down as a panel. They used to pick us up, a whole bunch of us, and take us to Connecticut. And I remember being on that panel, and Alison Camerata, we all remember Alison Camerata, when she was on Fox before she became one of the Communist News Network reporters. And so we were there, and a former state rep with me, and there were some people from New York there that they brought on the panel. And I said about Obama. I said President Obama said to illegals that it was okay for them to vote. Allison, stop the filming right now. Wait a second, we've got to fact check this. And all of a sudden they come back and they go, okay, we're good, let's continue. And if you Google me with Allison Camerata, was in November of 2016, you'll see her taking her hand and hitting herself in the head like, oh, that's not true. And my former state rep, Sue, said, yes, it was. I called it back then. And everybody called me a liar about it. And now it's all coming out, isn't it? About all the fraud in the voting. And where I am in New Hampshire, my 2023 election, to be back on the Board of Ed, I won. And I beat somebody by 6 votes. And then we saw the recount. We saw the hand recount. And all of a sudden, how do people lose 60 votes and somebody grabs 60 votes? They made it that when my election was over with, that she actually beat me by that 1 vote on the recount. And we took it to court all the way up. 1 vote, 1 case. That was how they maneuvered it. And everybody was saying, look at what's happening here on the hand count. How are these numbers changing so drastically?
Okay, this is a message I got on Messenger from Paul. And I don't want to say the person's last name because I want to keep everybody anonymous, keep their identity anonymous. But he made to me another just excellent point about, obviously what's happening in New Jersey is a scandal, but it's happening in Massachusetts, it's happening in New Hampshire, it's happening in Rhode Island, it's happening in Maine, it's happening in New York. So here it is. Here's the scam. So Paul writes to me and he says, Jeff, I renewed my Massachusetts license online. So I didn't go to AAA or go to the registry, just did it online. And the last question was related to voting. And it wouldn't let me leave without clicking on a button that says, I am a U.S. citizen. In other words, you want this renewal to be successful? You want to get your license renewed and don't have to have, the hassle of, going in person and waiting in line and all that? Well, just click you're a U.S. citizen. And so Paul continues, I thought it was strange. I've been a registered voter since 1982. Okay, now, in Massachusetts, I'm just stating the facts, okay, objective facts. They give out driver's licenses to illegals. In fact, they're proud of it. They give out identification cards to illegals and non-citizens. They're proud of it. It's a point of pride. So, I get a license or I renew a license. Are you a U.S. citizen? Click. Yeah. That's it. And boom, you're automatically registered to vote. So you're going to tell me, and by the way, in this case, you have to say you're a U.S. citizen or they won't even let you, renew your license. So if you're a non-citizen or an illegal, you're like, hey, whoa. Even if you want to be honest, you're like, I don't want to go into the registry. Okay, you want me to say I'm a citizen? Click. So, look, this is to me one of the problems. We never should have had motor voter registration. And by the way, you know who pushed it initially decades ago? You guessed it, the Democrats. Why? Democracy. Make it easier for people to vote, to register to vote. And people at the time all said, it's going to open up massive opportunities for fraud. And they were all laughed at and dismissed. And guess what? They've been proven prophetic. Now, I just got to ask, because we've become so used to motor voter registration, what does getting a driver's license have to do with registering to vote? Like, why are the two synonymous? Why are the two connected? What does driving a car have to do with whether you're registered to vote or not? Like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, how is this any of your business? Yes, whether I'm a U.S. citizen, that's very important I don't think non-citizens should get a driver's license. Okay, but that's another discussion for another time. But what does this have to do with me voting? I'm here, you're here to see if I'm qualified to drive a vehicle, and I'm here to renew my license so I can continue to drive a vehicle. What does this have to do with me voting in an election? What does one have to do with the other? So, no, I don't think you should be allowed to register to vote when you get an ID card or you get a driver's license. If you just cut that off, you're cutting off much of the source of the fraud. Now, you've made it almost effortlessly easy. And by the way, you can't be detected. It's just one click. And then you're automatically put on the registration voter rolls. And that's it. You're in the clear. No one checks as I said, your passport, birth certificate. No one is even checking and verifying if it's true. And you wonder why there are 16 to 20 million illegals who are voting in our country? So the Democrats knew to give the devil their due. They knew exactly what they were doing. When they handed out driver's licenses to illegals, remember, how did they couch it? Public safety makes the road safer. It doesn't make the road safer, but let that go. It was about getting them registered to vote. And now, you know how difficult it is to dislodge a Democrat in a place like Massachusetts, as an example? Because they've built up now an army of illegals. And that's why they don't want to hand over the state voter rolls. Because they go register, they get a driver's license. Are you a citizen? Click. And they're all registered. And like in New Jersey, they're voting, baby. So let me ask all of you, should we end motor voter registration? Should we end the process of people getting registered to vote if they get a driver's license or renew their driver's license? I say yes. What say you? John, we've reconnected in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Jeff, your wife's segment was spot on. It was, I think it was one of her best calls. But I'm going to tell you, Jeff, as far as voting goes, Victor had a thing to say about Jeff. I think Jeff is 100% right. But as far as Victor saying you got to vote Republican, what's the sense in voting Republican? I mean, we do vote Republican when our voice isn't heard. I mean, in Massachusetts, Jeff, we voted to have an audit. They more or less gave us the middle finger and said, well, you're not getting the audit because we don't want to show the corruption that's going on in the state. And you nailed it, Jeff, when you said the people, the CIA and the FBI that monitor this and prosecute this, they're behind it all. So what do we do, Jeff? I mean, when the fox is in the chicken house, do you just leave him there? No. Did Martin Luther King just, like Victor said, vote to get his point across? No. He held demonstrations, mostly peaceful demonstrations, and his voice was heard loud and clear, Jeff. And that's what we have to do. We have to. The people are not backing President Trump. There is nobody that is out on the streets. We've had no million person march. No one's backing the guy. I mean, we're backing him with our voice, but nothing is being done.
John, I hear you. At the end, you broke up a little bit, but no, I hear you. And John, thank you for that call. Look, I think many people are going to stay home because they're just very disappointed and frustrated with Congress and the Republicans. I look at these wave of communists that are now poised to win all of these seats. These are blue seats, blue districts, blue areas. To me, look, I know it's not a nice way to look at the world. It's a depressing way to look at the world. But for me, look, Trump to me is an exception, just the way Reagan was an exception. Rarely in life do you vote for someone, usually vote against someone. You know the expression, you vote for the lesser of two evils? And this is the lesser of two evils. I think it's not even close. It's the lesser of two evils. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to vote Republican. I'm voting Republican right down the ticket. I am not going to vote for the Democrats ever, and I'm not going to stay home. Why? Because how bad Mike Johnson and John Thune may be, you don't want to see Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Not with Mamdani and AOC and Bernie and all these others now. Malat Kiros and Chevalier and all these communists now that Mamdani is going to bring to power in Congress. Or, Abdul Said up in Michigan. I mean, you're looking now at a communist overthrow potentially of our country. And so I'm not voting for Republicans. I'm voting against the radical communist Democrats. And I know people say, well, the lesser of two evils, Jeff, isn't it still evil? Yeah, but there's one evil that annoys you and frustrates you, and there's another evil that can kill you. Dave in Vermont. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Hey, bonjour, Monsieur Kuhner. KUH International ER. Comment c'est tout, mon ami?
I am very good, my French friend. Dave, buddy, what do you make of all this?
I got two things that are kind of burning my butt. When these people are issued driver's licenses, now this is a national transportation system and everything. Why isn't the federal government stepping in and creating a liability against the people that are giving driver's licenses to people who should never have one? From what I understand, they don't even take a driver's test.
That's
correct. And they get it.
That's
and the other thing that burns my butt is with the Democrats and everything, and these rhinos just sitting on their hands and not doing anything. Seems to me, and the public should know that they are nothing but creating a way for the destruction of America. They are not helping at all, and by not getting anything accomplished, they are doing just the opposite. They're creating the destruction.
Dave, Dave, your logic is impeccable. I mean, honestly, really, your logic is absolutely phenomenal. Look, Dave, all I can just say is this, to piggyback off of what you're saying. My son Ashton is now 16, and he's got his learner's permit. And I think in about a month, don't quote me, 3 weeks, something like this, he's going to go to driving school before he gets his license, his full-fledged license. Now, I've been driving with him in the car, teaching him how to drive, teaching him how to park, teaching him the rules of the road. He's going to have to go through 30 hours of coursework, and then he's going to have to do practical driving, which is all fine. I'm not complaining. You want somebody, and then pass a test, pass both a written test and then, of course, an actual driving test. So if you're a citizen like my son, you have to go through many hoops, which is fine. You should go through many hoops. We don't want dangerous people on the road. We want people who know how to drive. But he's got to jump through so many hoops, and I'm spending months training him on top of everything, as is Grace. So when he does get his license, he's ready to drive, and he's not a hazard or a danger to you or anyone else on the road or to himself. Now, why is it that an illegal alien, many of them from some third world country, most of them can't even speak English, can't read English, who many of them do not know how to drive, can't read our signs, yet we give them driver's licenses like it's water, like it's candy. It's so wrong on so many levels. So they don't know how to drive. You're putting dangerous people on the road. Most of them are given licenses, but by the way, they have no insurance whatsoever. Even though the law says you have to carry insurance, it doesn't matter. And then on top of it, to add insult to injury, they register them automatically to vote. I mean, Dave, I'm sorry, it's a slap in the face. So again, we're treated like We're treated like third-class citizens in our own country. I'm just stating a fact. Why do you have to get you have to pass a driver's test to get a license? I had to do the same. My son has to do the same now. But illegals don't? Why? Why shouldn't they be made to pass an actual test? Why shouldn't they have 30 hours of coursework? And actually maybe even teach them some English in the process so they at least know what a road sign means. And, ultimately, look, it's not just that we're being treated like third-class citizens in our own country, but look how little they care for our safety and that of our families. I can give you example after example. Putting more illegals on the road and giving them driver's licenses has not made the streets safer. It's made the roads less safe. Especially with these commercial driver's licenses and these trucks. But forget the trucks. Just people in their cars. I can't tell you on a regular basis, driving back and forth to Boston, How many times I encounter illegals in a car cutting me off, blowing a stop sign, blowing a red light, almost getting hit. They don't use a signal light. They don't even know what that means. And you look at them and you're like, they don't know how to drive. And they don't know the rules. Clearly they don't know the rules, and they don't care about the rules. They go from right lane all the way to left lane with no signal. They just like they own the road, and people are jamming their brakes. So you're playing Russian roulette with our lives. You don't have the right to do that. And Dave, I'm telling you, and you know it, I know you know it, but I'm just emphasizing it for effect, because they're Democrat voters. They're almost like, think of them as their customers. They give them the cheap labor and most of all, the votes. And that's it. That's all they care about. And that guarantees their power. To the point now, say in a state like Massachusetts, it's a one-party state. The Republicans are useless. And the Democrats now control so many districts and so much political power, both congressionally and especially at the state level, they don't even have a freaking opponent.